Finally, guys. I'm back. Give me 1 second, guys. I fixed one. Is it better now? Is better now, Sean B? It's because the browser I was using, I don't know what the hell they did. They updated. I don't know what they did but they did something with the new browser I was using. So I'm going to get it fixed. Let's see. Share screen. YouTube. Let me see. See if anybody sees mine. No, this is not the channel I wanted to be plugged in. That is me, but I gotta sign myself out. Yep, I lied. Let's see. Let's see this one here.
We are not relying on this information as our primary investigative information. The problem that we have in this case, we don't even know what this case really is. We're looking at rootless hairs, hoping that that gives us the information that we need. I wouldn't presume that the abduction was intentional. Perhaps there wasn't an intent to spend 40 minutes inside
I don't
the
use
house.
no more.
We'll be looking at a video where there was what I think was a flower pot or a can or something that was used to prop open the door near the kitchen at the back of the house. Why would that door be propped open?
Hey guys, it's Jackson Buhai here at TMZ, your host of In the Know. We have reached the 4-month mark officially since Nancy Guthrie was initially abducted. Savannah Guthrie coming out recently correcting misleading reports saying that she had hired private investigators, also expressing the sheer amount of grief she's experiencing right now, having it be 4 months without seeing her mom and knowing where she's been. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Peter Valentin. He's the chair of the Forensic Science Department at the University of New Haven, who's saying that Savannah Guthrie should keep her head up during the investigation.
Thank you, Jackson.
Of course. So you subscribe to the idea that the investigation is far from over. We have some people in the investigative community calling this a cold case, and others like you saying that the investigation's far from done. Why is that?
So, I mean, I'm aware of a lot of forensic techniques that are being used that they still hold promise. And, you know, we won't know until we get the results of that forensic testing. And what I'm hopeful for is that the results of those forensic testing, will lead the investigation in new directions, right? What we're starving for here is a name. We're starving for information that will help us make sense of what I'm sure is just a large amount of data, right? There's cell phone tower information, there's license plate reader information, there's surveillance footage of all sorts of things. And what we just don't know is who are we looking for, and when was that information of value? Was it 12 hours before? Was it 2 hours before? Was it 2 hours afterward? And all we need is a kernel of information, a name, and perhaps something from those forensic testing results will give us a name that will help us cull through all of that data and propel this investigation forward.
And what kind of data sets are we looking at here?
So, the easiest thing would be to say that, every cell phone in the vicinity of that house is hitting a tower, and it's registering to that tower. So the investigators surely have that information. They know which phones, and they're holding on to it, and they'll certainly have looked at it in some measure. Are these phones that have been hitting the same tower for the last 6 months? Are there phones that have only been hitting the tower for the last week? Are there phones that only hit the tower twice and have never come, back to those same towers ever again? There's a lot of information to be had, right? Because now you can distinguish between residents and people who've just, traveled through the area once. And that can be helpful. License plate readers, right? Your cars are getting picked up all the time as they travel through different areas. And is that information helpful? Now, how do you distinguish somebody just driving through a neighborhood versus the person of interest? We need a name. We need some bit of information to grab onto because, this is such an immense amount of information that it's hard to know what you're looking for until you get something to, again, grab onto.
There are a lot of people that say that investigators are dealing with the opposite of such a high volume of information. Nancy Guthrie lived in a very secluded area. There were not a lot of CCTV cameras around the roads where the car that potentially took her was traveling. The person in the Ring doorbell footage, for example, is theorized to have a radio instead of a cell phone on him, making it difficult for cell phone towers to ping his phone. When there aren't those data sets to reference, what are investigators left with really if we are dealing with a person that thought ahead and thought through all the possible places that he tracked and covered his tracks subsequently? What are they left with?
Well, Jackson, you're right, because normally we are not relying on this information as our primary, investigative we have a relationship between our victim and our offender that we can uncover relatively easily. So we're not left to use cell phone information as the primary method for establishing the relationship or the connection. What we're actually using that information for is corroborating that connection, right? So if we know the relationship between the victim and the offender, then what we do is we use the cell phone information that we search for, because now we know the name, and now we can corroborate. Well, we know you were at the house between midnight and 2:30 because we found your phone number hitting off that tower. We have your license plate on a reader or, in the vicinity between this time and that time. But how did we find it? Because we knew what we were looking for. How did we know what we were looking for? Because we understood the relationship. And so it's a means to an end. It's a way of understanding how you're going to access the information that you have available to you. The problem that we have in this case is that we don't even know what this case really is.
That's true.
We don't know if kidnapping gone wrong. We don't know if it was a burglary that's turned into a kidnapping. We don't know if it was a targeted kidnapping of Nancy Guthrie herself. We simply don't know. And when you don't know what your case is really about, you also have a difficult situation when you don't know how to search for evidence. And I'm going to say, you probably made mistakes at the scene in searching for evidence because you didn't know what kind of case you had. And the analogy that I use very often in this regard is, imagine a stage where you're in control of the lights. And if I said you had a domestic homicide, you would turn the lights on in particular parts of your stage, right? Your scene, because those areas are important. And if you instead say, hey, we have a home invasion, some of the lights go off and different lights go on because different areas of your scene take on different importance.
Yep.
And because we don't know what kind of case this is, we're really grasping at where the evidence was in that house. And as a result, what we're finding ourselves with, we have precious little physical evidence to work with. Now, was there physical evidence in the house? Undoubtedly. The question is, was it recovered? And the reason why we're looking at rootless hairs and we're hoping that that gives us the information that we need is because initially that what this case was about was not well understood. And here we are 4 months later, still not really understanding what this case is about. And so now we're trying to wring as much information as possible from the little bit of physical evidence that we have.
He's in that house for over 40 minutes.
That's a
after
long
we
time,
see
40
him
minutes?
on that doorbell footage. What is someone that is going to abduct an older individual in that house for 40 minutes? I mean, are they staging a crime scene, or is the abductee being problematic for the perpetrator? In your experience, why would someone stay that long inside the crime scene?
I would take it one step behind where you're starting from, and I wouldn't presume that the abduction was intentional. And perhaps there wasn't an intent to spend 40 minutes inside the house.
40 minutes.
Now, I remember, several months ago, looking at a video where there was what I think was a flower pot or a can or something that was used to prop open the door near the kitchen at the back of the house. And it was my understanding that that was there at the very beginning. Why would that door be propped open? Now, this is one of those things where context means everything. Now, in any other situation, having a door propped open wouldn't mean much of anything. But in a situation where you're trying to make sense of what your scene is about, a simple, otherwise innocuous condition within your scene, such as a door being propped open, takes potentially outsized importance. Because if you had taken that photo to the members of Nancy Guthrie's family and say, hey, is this something unusual? And you show them the photo of that door being propped open, and they were to tell you that door would never be propped open, or that door would always be locked, or that door closes on its own, so there's no reason for that to be that way. Now you know that that otherwise innocuous pot, plant, object, whatever it was holding the door open, now is a very important piece of physical evidence, because whoever put that there is somebody far into that environment, right? And now there's your source potentially for fingerprints and for DNA or other trace evidence.
Yep, that makes sense.
But the issue is, can you find the places within that environment where there was a disturbance, right? A change in, the normal condition within the house. And what inexperienced
What is normal, though?
Investigators without a rich vocabulary will often say is that there was a sign of a disturbance, signs of a struggle. Well, what does that mean when your victim, your abductee potentially, is an 84-year-old woman? There might not be any, recognizable sign of struggle because she's so easily subdued. Right? It might have been, clearly she was bleeding at some point, but that might be the only actual tangible evidence of the struggle that we presume occurs in this abduction. The only other signs of disturbance or alteration to the scene might be what you alluded to, which is their attempts to bring the scene back to its normal state. But inevitably, they're going to stage it or return it incorrectly. And this is where you'd want to, and I've done this in casework before, where you actually show family members or people within a knowledge of the environment, hey, does this look normal to you? Does this look right? And they'll be able to point out to you that, no, that shouldn't be there. No, she would never leave this there. And now you can hone in on those objects, because now you can presume, or you hope, that those are objects that have been touched or handled by your perpetrators. because you really don't have any other. The only other places where you can say with any degree of confidence, where were the offenders? They were at your path of entry and your path of egress, right? Which way did they come in and which way did they leave?
Yep.
And aside from those two places, you have no idea where they were.
Based on the information we have at hand, I want to start by referencing the doorbell footage.
That's
he
sad.
walks up to the door. He tries the handle. Door's locked. Notices the camera's filming him, turns around, tries to cover up the camera with some shrubs from the front yard. We know the back door is propped open. The question that I have is, was that back door propped open beforehand
Or after?
or after the fact? What makes the most sense to you in this case? Just purely based off the information we have in front of us.
So if it is a planned abduction where you run under the assumption that we have more than one participant, the back door is propped open to make it easier for the second participant to gain access to the house, or it's easier for them to take Nancy out of the house. Now that's an assumption, because is it potentially easier for her to be taken out through
I
the
agree. I
front?
hope she's found soon too.
Right? The blood evidence in the
I
front
don't
of the
think
house
she'll be
certainly
be
makes
found
it
alive.
seem like she was taken out of the front of the house. I don't even want to say that. I know she was there at some point, but I don't even want to say that that means she was taken out. She could have been brought to the front of the house, brought back through the house, and then exited through the rear of the house. We can only say she was at the front of the house for a period of time, right? But we've seen those photographs of the blood stains, what they're called are drip stains, and they're not particularly useful in terms of reconstruction, other than to tell you where somebody was or where an object was with blood on it after the bloodletting event occurred, right? After the bleeding starts and something has blood on it. Almost always it's the person who's bleeding, but every now and then it's actually an object that has the person's blood on it. So yes. And so you always want to carve out that option that, hey, it might not be the person, it might be an object with the person's blood on it, just in case. But this is where a person who's very adept at documenting scenes would have taken a moment to document: does the door that's being propped open close on its own? Right. So if we take away that object that is propping the door open, what happens? Does the door close? Or is it simply a matter of, there's a breeze and the breeze might make the door close? Because that's important information, right? Because it potentially indicates that somebody has prior knowledge about what that door does. So we immediately want to grab that and prop the door open. Now, a lot of this is speculative, of course, right? Because we're trying to make sense of behavior that we really have a very limited window into. But we're trying to make sense of why are people doing what it is that they're doing while they're in the scene. And when you are looking, and so obviously as a forensic scientist who's trying to use this as a detective, right? Physical evidence is my what I traffic and what my stock and trade in is, right? I'm looking for ways to utilize physical evidence because it is the most powerful evidence if it's properly interpreted.
Yep.
And so when I go to scenes, I'm trying to make sense of what could this event have been. And that inevitably leads me to the sources of the physical evidence. And so if these Pima County investigators went to that scene and they never thought of what could this be, or even worse, they settled on only one version of the events. And that's what happens a lot. The investigators, especially experienced ones, think they know so much, or I've seen this before, I've handled, hundreds of cases. And they kind of close off the possibility that A, they could be wrong, or B, that, other people within their unit also have good ideas. And so they only look at cases one way. And so inevitably, they only collect evidence for one version of what could have happened.
Thank you, Sean B.
Now, I don't know whether or not that's at play here. But clearly we're starving for physical evidence.
It looks like they
Well,
removed.
Doctor, I want to thank you so much for joining me today. You've
they
given us some
removed. You cannot
extremely
put
informative
more than one
insight.
pin on
Appreciate your
here.
time today.
That's my
Remember
pleasure,
Rich
Jackson.
used to do that. Madam Rich used to put the thing that goes like that. I don't see it here. Oh, that's it. That's whack. Let's watch this one.
Hey everyone, I'm Ann Emerson, and this is Criminally Obsessed. What is it going to take to find Savannah Guthrie's mom, Nancy? It's been 4 months since she was kidnapped from her home in Tucson, Arizona, and a recent anonymous tip out of Mexico sent searchers chasing a new lead. But will it actually go anywhere? I tracked down licensed private investigator Bill Garcia, who just spent a week on the ground in Arizona searching for the 84-year-old, pro bono. He's not buying the Mexico theory. In fact, he believes that the kidnappers headed into northern Arizona.
So remember
Nancy Guthrie.
when Rich used to put when Manimal Reacts
and
puts
understand that
you see where
this
that
had to
phone
be a
number is at,
targeted event.
and it
Garcia
moves.
says he has his eyes on who
Back and
he
forth.
believes took Savannah
And then
Guthrie's
he could
mother,
also
and he's
put-
going to tell us why.
Both local and FBI law enforcement are aware of this subject because they've
So I think they've removed that
detained him at
because
one
I don't
point.
see it here.
For decades, Garcia has searched for missing adults and children across the country and around the world. Garcia says he keeps on doing this for one simple reason: families deserve answers. And when you look at Savannah Guthrie's face, you understand exactly why that
The
matters.
banner, yeah,
Please keep praying without ceasing.
because I cannot have a banner
We
and a
still
phone
believe.
number at the same time. That's
We still
stupid.
believe in a
It used
miracle.
to allow you to do
We
both.
need to know where she is. We need her to come home.
My heart breaks for the Guthrie family. And whether it's Bill Garcia, the FBI, or someone watching this right now who holds the missing piece of the puzzle, I hope they get the answers they've been waiting 4 long months to hear.
Nope.
Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. I don't want you to miss any of the updates to this case. Now let's get into it.
What happens? Criminal obsessed.
For our viewers that are saying, like, literally, I just happened to call you as you literally get off the road. And Bill, you don't tell anybody when you go on these trips.
We just got back from a week-long trip to the Tucson area, and quite eventful. Learned a lot and have a much better understanding of the dynamics around.
It's not working
Nancy's
for me.
disappearance. And so we're continuing to digest the information that we learned and what we saw. And unfortunately, we weren't able to find Nancy on this trip out.
No, but you feel like you're following some good leads right now, right?
I do. We've quietly been following along since the very beginning of Nancy's disappearance, and
It
some
doesn't
leads,
scroll for me. I
stick
have
out
the
a little
banner,
bit
but this
further
is
than
scroll.
others. And I felt it was necessary to actually go out and take a look at some of the places that we were considering following up with later.
How long were you on the road looking for her this time?
A full week. Today, we just got back last night. So
Mhm.
we were out there for 6 days.
I have to ask you, like, what is it like on the ground there right now?
Well, look.
Well, it's extremely hot, very sunny, very dry. A lot of activity outside of the area there
Oh,
of
you know, the
search
blue?
groups. It was pretty tough
Don't know
going,
what to
but
do.
it allowed me an opportunity to take a look at the areas where Nancy would
Oh,
have
it's a
been,
little fix it.
how she may have been taken away, and the direction that she may have been taken.
I like that.
And I've done this type of
I'm
technique
gonna edit it
over
as
and
well.
over and over for the better part of 35 years. And so I feel fairly confident that we've got some good information. We've been able to eliminate some particular locations. And so we start to kind of narrow down on the areas that we do believe that she
Mhm.
could have been taken in.
Really? A lot of people still out there looking.
Yeah, what I see in this particular case is a lot of the motivation for the volunteer groups and others looking for Nancy is the monetary reward. Normally, when you have a large reward, there's people that are willing to out and put the effort in. We don't work for reward. In fact, we're doing this case pro bono.
Bill, how long have you been doing this for? Just to remind everybody.
35 years.
Wow.
I've been licensed since June 1st, 2000, but I've been actively working these type of cases since 1992.
And you have had some success.
You could call it success when we recover
Right.
a person and we're able to reunite them with family. That's the greatest success that we could possibly have. If we're
Yeah.
able to discover what actually happened and give family members that information, and at least they'll have some type of resolve. It's still very hard to accept that your loved one has passed on, but at the same time, it gives them something to
You
move
see,
forward
I
with.
fixed it.
And that's what we try to do.
You go off the grid, you're undercover, you're not sharing, you're not broadcasting where you are, obviously.
I don't. I put up a couple of but a couple of snapshots of areas in the Saguaro National Park, one or two other places, but they typically don't lead to showing where I am. I can do my work a lot easier that way. I don't need people following me, people trying to interject their thoughts.
No, I did it
into
on
what I'm doing.
purpose.
I've been doing this too long to waste the time and effort to just go at this haphazardly. And so
Right.
I try to do it in a
Slowly,
very
yeah.
particular fashion.
What do you think about this tip that possibly Nancy was buried at a site near the U.S. border?
Well, first of all, I personally do not believe that Nancy was taken south of the border. If she would have been taken down south, it would have most likely happened in the early mornings of Sunday, February 1st. And that is a point when CBP and Homeland Security have
What happened?
enhanced
It disappeared.
measures at the border, both coming in and going out of the country. And so that
Okay.
would make it difficult for someone to actually take an unwilling person into Mexico. I've been involved in numerous searches south of the border, and they're never easy. They're very difficult. I've had the opportunity to work with the
Yes, better.
the abduction and missing persons unit in Mexico. They're very thorough. They're not involved at this point, which tells me that this is not that strong of a lead. If it would have been, these organizations from Mexico who dedicate themselves to do this kind of work would have been in there with their resources, manpower, and technology to look for a possible grave. Also, the fact that Pima County, I understand, has not been notified about this potential lead leads me to believe it's not as credible as people would seem to make it. It could be bad guys just trying to lead authorities and searchers in the wrong direction.
That is true.
And the fact that there was a glove found near that site doesn't really say a whole lot. I mean, black gloves are pretty
Everywhere.
much everywhere. So I'm
Yeah.
having a difficult time thinking that Nancy's actually south of the border. I'm going to stay with my thought that if anywhere, she would be north of Tucson and is one of the areas that we
And she's gone.
emphasized our search area to. And so we're going to continue with that. To me, it's obvious that there was more than one person. There would have been the person with a mask.
Mhm.
There would have been the vehicle that was called in to take the subjects away. There's very few exit areas from that location. Primarily, there's two, and they both empty out onto Campbell. Otherwise, you're going to get lost in the maze of roads in that area. And again, that would tell me you're not going to go south into the city because you have Tucson police and other law enforcement that patrol those areas, especially in the evening and early morning hours,
That's sad.
which tells me going north on Campbell, either turning left to get towards the I-10 or going right, headed up towards Mount Lemmon or even further to Pine Top, which is a little bit further away, which are areas that we took a look at.
What compelled you to go out on this trip, this last trip to go look for Miss
I wouldn't.
Guthrie?
Well, typically on difficult cases where there's not a lot of evidence to look at, there's not a lot of leads, I normally will handpick a team that is appropriate for the type of searches that we're going to do. In this particular case, I've got two subjects that have been helping. And like I said, we're a team. One of the team members was able to demask the person at the front door.
Yeah.
And once they were able to do that, they were able to actually establish an actual person. Pima County detectives asked our team member to explain to them how they were able to decipher who the person was, and actually asked our team member to instruct them, to show them how they did it. And this is over the course of 3 or 4 phone calls with detectives. And the other team member has some really specialized skills that a lot of people are not really aware of. The type of ability was used by intelligence agencies here in the U.S. during the Cold War. And I'm convinced that this person is able to lead us in a more definitive direction, especially now that we have a potential subject to look at.
Basically, one of your team members was able to, in essence, through technology, very successfully demask who the suspect was. And then that person who you believe the suspect is, you were able to sort of track that person down. And then as you were able to track that person down, you were able to learn what the motive or the ability would be for that person to abduct Nancy.
That's correct. Well, we know that this person has spent some time in the Tucson area and has indicated that he has not been in the United States since 2019.
Well,
But our research learned that he was here until shortly after Nancy disappeared. We've learned a lot about this person, both through social media, through other sources. We understand he was with the military in his particular country at some point. We know where he had been working. There's some connection there to this supposed group of people. They like fine things. They like gambling. They like the finest coffees, the finest vehicles, extravagance. And that kind of led us to some particular areas to take a look. And so I feel confident that we're on the right track. And I feel that both local and FBI law enforcement are aware of this subject because they've detained him at one point. I just don't know that they were ready to actually arrest him at that time.
You're probably
There is
right.
a certain
They
amount
could
of
have done a
time
lot of shit.
that you can hold someone before you have to charge them or let them go.
Yeah.
And as in many other cases, even though they have a strong belief that a particular subject has conducted the crime, they release them thinking they can keep track of them. My suspicion is that this person traveled almost 300 miles to leave the country from a very remote international airport that we've been taking a look at at that area. And I think once all the chips are on the table, we're going to find that we were on the right path.
Do you have access to anything that would help you find out if there was a passenger who left that airport at that time?
We don't in the United States. We have asked for that. And in Mexico, it's fairly simple, believe it or not. You can get name and flight information. And we've done that through our contacts with the Missing and Abducted Person organization. The problem is if they didn't stop in Mexico and they continued on to the country we believe they went to, there would be no record in Mexico.
Do you have a firm understanding of why Nancy Guthrie? I know her daughter's Savannah. We've all thought all along that could have something to do with it, besides just the wealth of someone who is a celebrity. Do you understand why it would be Nancy Guthrie?
I don't completely understand why Nancy. I know that this was targeted. Once I went to Nancy's home, and I was lucky enough to go there on the day that law enforcement had cleared everybody off the street. They had put barricade signs up. So it gave me an opportunity to quietly look at the location and understand that this had to be a targeted event. That you can't randomly pick someone like this out of that type of neighborhood. It just would be impossible. My suspicion is because of the notoriety. I know that I believe it was November of last year when Savannah had her mother on the show, and they went back to Tucson and kind of took a look at the area. That could have been one of the reasons that may have prompted these people to understand, hey, there's somebody with money in this area. Because even though it's a nice area, there's much larger and more expensive homes surrounding the Catalina foothills, where you would expect there to be a larger financial payout if you were to take somebody from there. I also understand that there may have been something connected to Savannah where she may have said something about one of the stories she was covering.
How close do you think we are to finding Nancy?
That's a tough one. I was hoping we'll be able to find her, or at least find where she was in this last trip. But in some cases, these people are never found at all. And I'm afraid that may happen here if
No,
the
they haven't been
attention,
given
media attention
any
goes
more
away.
details, Sean B.
But at the same
That's kinda
time,
crazy.
I think that a lot of the inexperienced people that are out there doing TikTok and doing YouTube and doing these other types of content creations are actually muddying the water.
You've said before, it's a little bit of a circus out there, because I guess you've got a lot of people that are searching, but not everybody knows what they're doing.
People think it's easy to go out and just start searching areas. It actually isn't, because you have to do it in a very methodical way. If you do come across evidence, you have to be very careful about how you approach it and what you do with that evidence. Typically, if we found something, we would see it, we would photograph it, we would call law enforcement, or at least document it for
Can you still hear me,
at a
right?
later time, depending on the value of that potential evidence. I'm sure the community's tired of having people do what they're doing. Most of them are not professional journalists, and they're doing it for likes. They're doing it for whatever money they're able to make off of these channels, and it's a difficult situation.
It is.
Because they're not providing accurate, concise information. They're sending people off in different directions where these searches could be better conducted. And so it's become quite a mess, a circus, I suspect.
What do you think is going to crack this case?
Most likely it'll
Somebody
be
turn themselves in.
law enforcement footwork, technology. It was kind of a shame that federal law enforcement wasn't brought in earlier, because some of the evidence may have been destroyed. For instance, the blood on the front porch. To me, that's very, very dramatic. It leads me to believe, from looking at the blood droplets and the blood splatter, to me that represents a hit to the nose. So I understand that it is Nancy's blood. If it is, that means she was probably hit in the nose. And the splatter would have been something that would have happened from somebody coughing, or most likely coughing. I don't believe it was spitting blood, but I think in the process of maybe draining blood down the nasal canal, they had to cough, and the cough is what created the blood splatter, in addition to the large droplets, which I've seen. I worked EMS for almost 10 years, and that large blood drop is significant to me as someone who had a bloody nose. It's not the typical type of blood that you're going to see from a cut or an injury outside of a broken nose or a bloody nose.
What do you think you would have found there that would have gotten you closer to Nancy?
Well, there may have been some DNA, because if that occurred, that means there was some kind of an outlash by either the masked person or possibly a second person that showed up with the vehicle. So there may have been DNA or some type of minute evidence that would have been dropped in the same area,
Probably.
which was most likely destroyed by people trampling over that area and it not being collected early enough or appropriately enough. We've reached out to family members, the Guthrie family members, not heard back. And so we kind of continue to
They don't want to
what
be
we do
bothered.
in hopes that we are able to get that one concrete lead that'll lead us to where Nancy is. And as far as going back, it's always possible. Today,
Yeah.
I'm extremely tired and a little depressed that we didn't get more than what we had hoped for. But with time, I'll get some rest, and we'll go over the video and the photos and the information that we did obtain, and who knows?
Drop a comment below. I want to hear what you're thinking about this case. After hearing Bill Garcia and where he was in his search, do you think we're any closer to finding Nancy Guthrie? And what do you
No,
think
I don't think
it's going
so.
to take to crack this case? Be sure to like and subscribe to Criminally Obsessed. We're staying on top of the latest developments in all of the cases that you're obsessed with.
Let's see if I see it in the. It's really so though. I'm looking for a different video to put. That's the type of cat you have, right? This one?
Did you know only 2% of cats see their owner as their mother? And your cat may have made that decision about you a long time ago. And every single day since, they've been proving it. 15 behaviors. Each one a signal most owners walk right past. By the end, count how many your cat does. Because if the number surprises you, it should. Number 1, the belly display. Stop for a second and think about what your cat is actually doing when they roll over in front of you, not asking to be petted. That's the mistake almost every owner makes. The belly is where every vital organ sits. No fur protection, no defensive position, just exposed, completely, in the wild, showing that to the wrong creature is a death sentence. Your cat shows it to you, not to your guests, not to your family, not to the person who feeds them when you travel. To you. And here's the part that changes everything. It doesn't matter if they let you touch it. Some do. Some grab your hand
You have
immediately.
2 cats.
The display itself is what matters. The fact that they rolled over at all, that they let their guard down that completely.
Oh,
that
it's
fast.
not all
The
orange. That
moment
makes
you walked
sense.
in, you didn't train that. You can't train that. That kind of trust only grows in one direction. Towards someone a cat has decided is completely safe. They decided that about you. But belly trust is just the beginning. What your cat does with their tongue tells you something even more ancient about how they see
That's
you.
funny. Imagine
Grooming
somebody
you.
rubs your
Your cat
belly.
licks your hand, your hair, sometimes your face when you're half asleep, and most owners laugh it off. Weird cat thing. It's not weird. It's one of the most deliberate things a cat can do. In feline social groups, grooming, called allogrooming, doesn't happen between strangers. It doesn't happen between cats that merely tolerate each other. It happens between cats that have decided this one is mine, this one is family. Mother cats groom their kittens to bond them, to calm them, to say, I'm responsible for you and I take that seriously. When your cat grooms you, they've placed you in that category.
That's-
Not as a pet owner, as someone they feel responsible for, someone worth caring for. That rough little tongue on your skin isn't random affection. It's a statement, a quiet, deliberate one. You are mine, and I look after mine. Now here's one that surprises
My dog
people
does the same
because it
thing.
looks like your cat is ignoring you. But what they're actually doing is the opposite, sitting just within reach. Your cat sits near you, not on you, not demanding anything, just close, 3 feet away, maybe less, near enough that if you reached out, you could touch them. Most owners read this as indifference. They don't want affection right now. That's a misread. Animal behaviorists call this affiliative proximity. And in cats, it's one of the clearest markers of a secure emotional bond. Your cat has calculated the exact distance where they feel connected to you, without feeling crowded, without losing control of the interaction. This is actually the most emotionally mature thing your cat does. Kittens do this with their mothers during the independence phase, staying close without needing to be held. Learning that love doesn't require constant contact to be real. Your cat already knows that. The cat sitting near you right now, 3 feet away, apparently unbothered, isn't ignoring you. They're choosing to be near you, quietly, on their terms, because near you is where they want to be. But nothing reveals how your cat sees you more clearly than what happens the moment they fall asleep. Sleeping on you or right beside you. Sleep is when a cat,
Your cat
is
sleeps near you,
completely
Shanti?
defenseless, eyes closed, every muscle relaxed, zero awareness of surroundings. In the wild, that moment of vulnerability in the wrong location gets them killed. So where a cat chooses to sleep isn't small, it's everything. They have your entire house, every warm surface, every soft corner, every patch of sunlight on the floor. They choose you, or they choose right beside you, close enough to feel your warmth, your breathing, the slight movement of your body. A study in animal behavior found that cats sleep nearest to the individual they're most securely attached to, not the warmest spot in the room, not the softest surface, the person. When your cat closes their eyes next to you, they've made a specific calculation. This is the safest place I know. You became that place for them, not because of food, not because of routine, because of something they feel when they're near you that they don't feel anywhere else. And when you're not there, what your cat does with your belongings will genuinely change how you feel about leaving them. Sleeping on your clothes. When you're gone, you come home, and there's your cat, curled up on the shirt you left on the chair, the hoodie you threw on the bed, your unwashed clothes, not the clean ones, specifically the ones that smell like you. This isn't random, and it isn't habit. Research on feline separation behavior shows that cats with strong attachment bonds experience genuine distress when their primary person leaves. Not a dramatic distress, a quiet
Cat
one,
eyeball, though.
a
You don't like
low-level
cats?
searching. And the way they cope is by finding the closest thing to you that remains. Your scent is a biological signal to their nervous system. It means safety, calm, you. When they bury themselves in your laundry, they're not being lazy or territorial. They're self-soothing, the way a child holds a parent's jacket when they're scared.
I don't mind.
You weren't there,
I don't mind.
but something of you was.
But they
And for
kill
them,
mice, though.
that was enough to
I
get
prefer-
through until
I
you
prefer the
came
cat
back. Speaking of
than
you
mice
coming
is.
back, the moment you actually walk through that door reveals something your cat can't fake even if they tried. The greeting that's only for you. Watch this closely next time someone visits. Your cat might appear, might sniff around the edges of the room, might disappear entirely. Then watch what happens when you walk in. The tail goes straight up. A small sound, a chirp, a trill,
Oh,
something warm and involuntary.
I like
They
cats.
move toward you immediately, weaving between your legs, head bumping your hand before you've even put your bag down. Nobody
They
else
kill a
gets
lot of
that.
birds, yeah.
The tail
Not
upbreeding
here,
is
not in New
documented
York.
in
They
feline
kill
research as a
mice and
behavior
rats.
that develops between a kitten and its mother. It signals complete recognition of a trusted caregiver. Adult cats almost never do it with other cats. They reserve it for the humans they've fully bonded to. That quiver at the tip of the tail when they see you? Researchers identify that as an involuntary excitement response. They can't control it. They can't perform it. You walk in, and something in your cat just responds. That's not a trained behavior. That's not habit. That's someone who genuinely missed you. Now, this next one, most owners completely misread it, and misreading it actually damages the bond over time. Sitting on your things. You put your laptop down. Cat sits on it. You set out papers. Cat sits on them. You open a book. Cat inserts themselves between you and the page. The easy explanation is cats are weird. The real explanation is more human than most people expect. When you give
Cat
sustained
Randall's doing
attention
Wild
to an
Dog.
object, your phone, your work, your screen, your cat notices the shift. The focus that was on them is now somewhere else, and they don't like it. So they do what any young child does when a parent is too absorbed in their phone. They physically close the gap. They put themselves between you and the thing competing for
spoken
your
to him?
attention. It's not territorial in the traditional sense. It's
It
possessive
sounds like
in the
AI.
most affectionate sense. They want your eyes, your presence, your focus back on them, not because they're demanding, because
I'm
they've
not
gotten
sure.
used to you, and your distraction feels like a small absence. They'd rather have you present, always. And then there's the behavior that happens when you leave the room. Something so simple you've probably never stopped to think about what it means. Following you room to room. You get up. They get up. Kitchen, they appear. Bathroom, they're at the door. Bedroom, they're already there, somehow waiting. The standard explanation is curiosity. But curiosity lasts 30 seconds. This is something else. In the wild, cats follow nothing. They're solitary by design, loyalty to no one, movement on their own terms. But cats who form deep human attachments behave differently. Researchers at Oregon State University found they follow their bonded person through the home using the same psychological mechanism as
You got the
securely
hospital
attached
number so I
infants
can call?
following a parent, not because they want something from you, because being near you regulates them. When you're in the room, something settles in them. Cortisol drops, heart rate steadies. You became their anchor, their reference point, the thing their nervous system checks in with throughout the day. They're not following you. They're making sure they never lose track of you. But the most vulnerable thing your cat will ever do happens in total silence, when they think no one is watching. The sleeping paw. They don't need to be on top of you. They're not asking for attention.
Let me see in
They're
the
already
chat.
asleep or close to it, but one paw rests on you, lightly, almost weightless. That small thing is one of the most deliberate gestures in your cat's entire behavioral vocabulary. Remember, sleep is maximum vulnerability. Eyes closed,
Oh, I got
every
his number. I'm gonna
defense
call
down.
him right now.
And in that
queue.
moment, their body reaches out to make sure you're still there. A contact check. A silent reassurance in the middle of their most unguarded state. Mothers do this with newborns. That involuntary reach in the night just to feel them breathing. Just to confirm they're
You call
there.
now.
Your cat does it to you. One paw, barely touching. But staying connected to you even while unconscious. Because even in sleep, losing
But
you
they
is
don't-
something their
They
body
don't ask you
refuses
for
to
his
accept.
name and stuff.
Now, this next one, if you've ever felt rejected by your cat, this might completely reframe that experience. The slow blink. Your cat looks at you from across the room, holds the gaze, and then, slowly, deliberately, closes their eyes halfway. Most owners smile and look away. They don't realize they just received something. Direct eye contact in the animal world is almost universally a threat, a challenge. Staring means aggression, but your cat holds your gaze and then softens it, intentionally. Researchers call this the slow blink. It's documented as a signal of deep trust and non-threatening intent. Essentially a cat's way of saying, I see you, and I'm completely at ease with you. What most owners miss is that it's also an invitation.
Oh, that's cool.
When your cat slow blinks at you, They're waiting to see if you speak the same language. Try it. Hold their
Let me
gaze
pause
gently.
this. I'm
Blink.
gonna give him a call. Let's listen to. It's ringing. You probably sleeping. Hello, this is me, Brian. Call me back when you hear this message. Cat Randall, call me back. Thank you. This is Brian P. I left him a message.
Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Please verify your number.
Oh, I dialed it wrong. Let me see. I think there's too many digits, no? 228922 429. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, they do a lot of shit in the hospital because when I was there like 16 weeks ago, they not pick up. They always wake you up. I don't know why they prefer doing it at night, but it could be annoying. It says Wild Dog and Sean B's here. Who's the third person? Hmm. My head is just. You had an abscess? You have sepsis? You're lucky to be alive. Because one of our fellow members died because of that cake spoon. She passed about 4 months ago because she had sepsis. Wow. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to sleep either. It depends how bad you get sepsis and how good is your immune system. Oh, you didn't want to die. That's true too. I believe where her son. I believe where. I believe what her son told me. Yes, she died of sepsis. To me, I thought it was like 2 or 3 days. Because when sepsis can kill you fast. If you Google it, it can kill you fast. Echo, how fast can sepsis kill you?
Sepsis can progress rapidly and become life-threatening within hours if not treated. The risk of death increases significantly with each hour treatment is delayed, so quick medical attention is crucial.
So it can happen within hours.
Yep, sepsis can indeed progress to a life-threatening state within hours. It's a rapid condition that requires immediate medical attention.
Echo, stop. Yeah, but she lives in Australia. Every country's hospital looks different. Oh, I didn't know that. Probably. A lot of us are not really honest. I try to be honest, but sometimes people are embarrassed, and I understand that. Oh, everybody's different. Wild dog. That makes sense. Oh, that's good to know that Australia has very good healthcare. You been there, Wild dog, when you were sick? She told me about them. Mm, that- You might be right. A lot of places somebody might tell you healthcare in New York is the best. Hell no. I'm being honest, straight up. All hospitals in New York are not the best. Mm. Oh, she had autoimmune disease. Maybe she wasn't honest with you, but I would ask. She would usually be honest with me. Like I would ask her questions, and then because she didn't only chat on the phone with me. She had her son and her dad, and they would watch her talk to me. So I asked her. I said, let me ask them to make sure she wasn't lying. And they would tell me, no, she has these conditions and stuff. I said, all right. But she did have. She lied to you? Wow. But you can tell when somebody's lying to you. How did you find out? Hmm. If you want to text me privately, just tell me what she told you. She told me she couldn't stop drinking. She told me that her liver is messed up too. I been knew that. I knew it. I knew. She told me because I would ask her, how you doing? She said, I'm not feeling well. And she would tell me, I said, what's wrong? And she would tell me, she'd be, oh, I have this condition, this condition. She had like, I think like 4 or 5 conditions that I can remember. How you call him on, have you, if he's on Discord, just call him on Discord. That's what I would do if he picks up. And then you call him every day. Let me see. Don't tell me. Let's see. No, he's here. I'm looking for him now. Let me look him up. Yeah, I found his server. Go to my server and go to chit chat. And look at all members, he's there. His name is Dog Bones 0405. Yeah, I do. Uh, Let me know. Or send him a text. That's all I would do. Oh, I'm texting him now. I'm texting him now. Let's see if he gets back to me. I don't know when, but you want me to try calling him? Let's see. I don't think he'll pick up. Hello? No, he didn't pick up. And she don't pick up either, right? That sucks. Yeah. It doesn't ring. Yeah, because he was gone. I wish he would pick up. I'm sad, you know. Wow. All right, guys. I'll be back later if Rich doesn't go on. I'll be back if Rich Manimal doesn't come on by 2 a.m. Thank you, guys. Bye, Sean B. Bye, Wild Dog. See you later. Good night.